Hi, I'm Matt Kelly.
And I'm Matthew Milligan.
And we're the hosts of Weird Al-Gorithm.
And this is everything you may not know about Weird Al's Bad Hair Day.
After the unsuccessful release of Al's movie UHF, Al felt that his career was possibly over. Thankfully, a band from Seattle helped give his career a much-needed jolt of energy. Off the Deep End was released in 1992 and gave Al his second top 40 hit. The next year, he followed it up with Alapalooza, which sold well, but was not as well received critically.
It wasn't that great, Yabba Dabba Doo. It wasn't, I don't know. What'd you think?
After a 3-year break, Al returned with Bad Hair Day. The album infamously had a rocky start, with Al struggling to get parody permission. Al intended to do a parody of U2's Numb, where he would read the lyrics to Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham, but was denied permission from the Seuss estate.
I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam. I am.
U2, however, granted permission on a different song that we will discuss shortly. Al also intended to do a parody of The Offspring's Come Out and Play called Laundry Day, but this never happened. It's still unclear if the parody was denied or Al abandoned the idea, but a small piece of the song was played live in later years. Additionally, Al wanted to do a parody of the Beatles' Free as a Bird called Gee, I'm a Nerd, but Yoko Ono declined permission as well. Lastly, Al wanted to do a parody of the Rembrandts' I'll Be There For You under the title Repair You, reimagining it as the theme for Home Improvement, but the producers of Friends didn't want the song to get overexposed, which is hilarious if you grew up in the mid-90s. But eventually, Al did get permission for his lead single, supposedly. Amish Paradise is a parody of the Coolio hit Gangsta's Paradise. Yankovic felt that parodying Coolio would pay off because Coolio had such an identifiable image, and felt that juxtaposing the original song's gangster themes with the Amish lifestyle would produce a humorous end result. Al was correct, as the song was a hit, reaching 52 on the Billboard Hot 100 and helped Bad Hair Day become his only double platinum record. The music video for Amish Paradise was filmed in Southern California and directed by Al himself. Most of the extras were made up of friends and family, but the video did feature Florence Henderson as a parody of Michelle Pfeiffer's character in Dangerous Minds. It also features Al doing a recreation of the infamous Buster Keaton routine of a falling building. Al has described this as the scariest stunt he's ever done. Unfortunately for Al, the glory came with controversy, as original artist Coolio reportedly had declined the parody, but his record label and producer still told Al yes. After receiving a Grammy for his song, Coolio publicly stated that he did not approve or appreciate Al's parody. Al later stated on VH1's Behind the Music that he had written a sincere letter of apology to Coolio, which was never returned, but also pointed out that Coolio never complained when he received royalty checks from the proceeds of the song. A series of photos taken at the XM satellite radio booth at the 2006 Consumer Electronics Show suggests that Al and Coolio had finally made amends. And in 2014, Coolio stated that the decision to refuse the parody at the time was stupid, and that he wished someone in his management team had stopped him, and since then has considered the final parody to be funny.
The second song on Bad Hair Day, and the first of Weird Al's original songs on the record, is a doozy. Everything You Know Is Wrong is a style parody of Brooklyn indie rock pioneers They Might Be Giants. And boy, is this a match made in heaven. A quirky musical duo where one of the primary instruments is an accordion? Yeah, you can bet that Al absolutely adores TMBG, and it really shows in this track. Completed on the very first day of the album's recording in November of 1994, Everything You Know Is Wrong is a fast-paced pop tune with a million chords and even more lyrics crammed into just 3 minutes and 47 seconds. One of Al's most surreal tracks ever, we get 3 verses telling stories of very unfortunate scenarios involving car accidents, alien abductions, paper cuts, and ultimately, eternal damnation. All connected by the refrain that everything you thought was just so important doesn't matter. Everything you know is wrong. Arguably Al's greatest mantra since Dare to Be Stupid. The They Might Be Giants influence is all over this track. surf guitars, accordion solos, saxophone breakdowns, and big, bold synthesizers feature throughout the production, as well as lyrical references to some of TMBG's fan-favorite tracks, like My Evil Twin and We Wanna Rock. Even the name of the song is a nod to the first song on They Might Be Giants' first album, Everything Right Is Wrong Again. John Linnell of They Might Be Giants commented in 2023 that he waited years to listen to it, but when he finally did, he said, "I feel sort of dumb saying this, but it really appealed to me as a piece of songwriting. And I realize that's because Weird Al is copying our style, and I just automatically liked it. I suppose you can hear somebody imitate you and be annoyed by it, but I thought the song was great. I really liked it." This was the first Al album I ever heard, and so this is the first Weird Al original song I ever heard. I was instantly obsessed. Many years later, as a teenager, I would discover They Might Be Giants and fall absolutely in love with their entire discography. It was only years after that, in my 20s, that I realized Al had actually shown me TMBG over a decade before I even realized it. Incredible. This is easily one of Al's all-time great original songs and is a must listen.
On track 3, we find the song Cavity Search, which is a parody of the U2 song Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. After a failed attempt at a cameo for the 1995 film Batman Forever, Bono offered the B-side to director Joel Schumacher. While it was a top 20 hit when it came out, it's arguably one of the most forgotten U2 songs of the 90s. For Al, it was the first of 5 parodies to be recorded for the album. The song recounts the horror of having to go to the dentist and features the sound of an actual dental drill. Yankovic called his real-life dentist, and he brought a real drill and a human tooth, which the two took turns drilling into for a recording that gives a very unnerving effect. The song also brilliantly replaces the soft orchestral outro of the U2 song with a Muzak version of the song.
The year was 1996, and grunge was effectively over. But you can't blame Al for trying to rekindle some of that magic. Callin' in Sick is a grunge-style parody, almost certainly specifically referencing Nirvana, with a guitar riff that's sort of a cross between Come As You Are and Lithium. It was recorded on the very first day of album tracking alongside Everything You Know Is Wrong. Grunge kids had already been widely labeled as slackers and burnouts by their elder generations, so it's really a stroke of genius of Al to lean into that stereotype and make a satirical slacker anthem covering all the reasons why someone just can't be bothered to go to work. Yep, it seems that in the 90s, these no-good teenagers would rather burp their Tupperware or watch Ernest Goes to Camp than work a dead-end job somewhere. The nerve, right? This isn't necessarily at the top of my list of favorite Al originals, but it's an incredibly solid genre parody with some sharp satire behind it. The bridge is absolutely triumphant, with Al screaming that he can do anything he wants to, that he is alive. Can you hear him, world? He's alive. And towards the end of the song, he drops the line, "Freedom's just 7 digits away," which is maybe the single most perfect way to summarize the glorious feeling of relief you can only get from treating yourself to that not quite sick day every once in a while.
For track 5, we have a polka. And with alternative polka, Al returns to the music medley styles of polkas after his previous album featured more of a polka cover with Bohemian Polka. Al covers songs from Beck, Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails, R.E.M., Alanis Morissette, The Smashing Pumpkins, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, Soundgarden, Green Day, and famously not a grunge artist, Sheryl Crow. With this particular polka, Al originally had the chorus of Buddy Holly in it, but Rivers Cuomo requested it be removed just before the album's release. Yankovic physically cut the bit out of the master tape, but since the liner notes had already been printed, Weezer is still credited. 14 years later, Yankovic randomly released the unmixed and unmastered Buddy Holly polka clip to his YouTube channel on June 25th, 2010.
At a certain point in Al's career, it felt like he began a mission to show the world that he could write a silly song in just about any musical genre you could think of. Which brings us to Since You've Been Gone. No, not a Kelly Clarkson parody. That song wouldn't come out for another 8 years. But, in fact, a barbershop a cappella track featuring a lovelorn narrator lamenting just how sad he feels following his beloved leaving him. In 2026, this plays like a very quaint throwback to something Mr. Burns might have grown up listening to, but you can definitely hear a strong comparison to Billy Joel's The Longest Time, which came out in 1984. It's also worth remembering that there was this very strange period around here in the 90s where rockapella was tearing up the charts with songs about zombie jamborees and an elusive vigilante named Carmen Sandiego. In fact, shortly after this album was released, rockapella would do a barbershop jingle for Folgers coffee that anyone my age can hear playing in their mind right now. So it was an oddly perfect genre for Al to tackle in 1996. Al performs all the vocals here by himself, which really adds to the silliness of the whole thing. And the best thing about this song is it gives Al an excuse to come up with new, creative ways to express how bad he's feeling. Like he stuck his hands in a blender and turned it on, or like he's getting tetanus shots every day. Ouch. But of course, Al saves the best for last, where he announces in dramatic fashion that he feels almost as bad as I did when you were still here. He also says yap yap dibby dow bop bop, which is cool. Go on YouTube and you can see this track really made an impact on the acapella community. There are loads of videos of groups performing it live and individuals recording each part and assembling it like Al did. This is absolutely classic and a perfect little 1 minute, 20-second song to take you into the second half of this album.
For track 7, Al takes on the Presidents of the United States of America song Lump and transforms it into a song about the 1994 film farce Gump. The final result, Gump, was the second single off the album. While being interviewed on Krista Makes a Podcast, President's vocalist Chris Ballou reminisced about Al getting on the tour bus to play them the music video just before it aired anywhere else.
But, you kind of made it when Weird Al parodies your song.
Apparently, and I don't have a memory of this, he debuted that record for me on our tour bus, I think. Just me and him, and he played it for me, and he had never debuted a video for the artist he was covering in person before. So I don't remember that, because I was talking to him one day about that era or something, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you remember we were on your tour bus and I played you the Gump video?" And he's like, "I was really nervous because I didn't know if you'd like it or what." And I have no memory of that. You'd think you would remember Weird Al and you alone in a tour bus looking at a video where he plays you for the first time.
Track 8 brings us another Al-style parody, and this time he's channeling the snotty British punk energy of the one and only Elvis Costello. Specifically from his early albums like My Aim Is True and this year's Model. You can hear the driving drums and bass line a la Pump It Up, the Farfisa organ prominently featured on Watching the Detectives, and the mean-spirited lyrics from, well, a whole bunch of Elvis songs from this era. Like They Might Be Giants, this feels like an artist Al has admired for many years and was kind of destined to explore in this way. Elvis Costello carries so much punk swagger in his persona, while also still just writing undeniable hooks and unforgettably catchy melodies. And even when Al isn't so obviously trying to sound like Costello, this is clearly a writing style he connects with. I'm So Sick of You successfully captures all of that, and then of course amps it up to preposterous levels, with our narrator telling his presumably soon-to-be ex-girlfriend that he is disgusted by everything about her, from her back hair to her toenails, to her voice, to her laugh, to her body odor, her teeth, her butt. Even just the quality of the questions she's asking makes him think how I'd really like to tie your head completely up in duct tape so I wouldn't have to listen to you asking me those stupid questions over and over again. Easily one of the most fun original tunes on this record. In my opinion, this is an absolute top-tier Weird Al song. And fun fact, this was also the final original song to be recorded on the album, and it was recorded the exact same day as Phony Calls.
Track 9 is the Soul Asylum parody Syndicated Incorporated. This was actually the final parody recorded for the album. It was based around the song Misery, which was the second biggest hit for the band behind Runaway Train. The song was written from the perspective of a man obsessed with syndicated TV, name-checking shows like MASH, Three's Company, and Dynasty, among many others.
At the time of the release of Bad Hair Day, Al already has had a history of songs that resemble horror movies. Nature Trail to Hell literally describes an upcoming horror film, but there are also songs like Good Old Days that give you the quaint origin story of a local serial killer. I Remember Larry ranks among Al's most harrowing narratives. A chronically bullied man endures what seems to be years of abuse at the hands of Larry, the next-door neighbor. Larry's torture ranges from juvenile prank phone calls and wedgies all the way up to cutting his car in half and dumping toxic waste on his lawn. And all the while, our narrator repeatedly reassures us that Larry is, quote, just the neighborhood clown and a funny, funny guy. In fact, after a brief, ominous moment following the bridge where we hear the song play in reverse for a moment, our narrator decides to flip the script and prank Larry back. although his idea of a pretty good gag includes kidnapping, torture, and ultimately, straight-up murder. And as he reflects on all of this, he realizes that he'll never forget about Larry, no matter how I try. And then that takes us into an unhinged psychedelic outro where perhaps we're led to believe that our narrator has truly snapped. This is easily one of the darkest songs Al has recorded to date, and likely remains in the top 5 most sinister songs he's ever made. And coming from someone who's been weird his whole life, you have to wonder if Al took any inspiration from any of the bullying he might have faced as a kid. Let's hope not. This song is done in the style of Hilly Michaels, former member of Sparks, who put out a pretty incredible new wave pop rock album in 1980 called Calling All Girls. Pretty obscure pick for Al, very cool for him to pay tribute in this way. And fun fact, during that psychedelic outro, you can hear Al's voice speaking backwards. And reversing the tape here reveals his hidden message, "Wow, you must have an awful lot of free time on your hands." We sure do, Al.
The final parody on the album was actually the second one recorded, Phony Calls, which is a parody of TLC's hit Waterfalls. Al took a #1 hit song about the dangers of drug dealing and AIDS awareness and turned it into a tribute to prank calls. During the bridge of the song, in place of Lisa Left Eye Lopez's iconic rap, you hear a phone dialing a number, which was Al's guitarist Jim West's actual home phone number, followed by a clip from The Simpsons episode Blood Feud, where Bart pranks Moe. Al joked, "It was a pretty sweet deal for The Simpsons voice actors. They got a nice pile of money and they didn't even have to come into the studio."
Al's album closer is the second Christmas song he's ever recorded. 1986's poorly received Polka Party's album closer was a song called Christmas at Ground Zero, about a family trying to have a Merry Christmas despite being in the midst of an active nuclear holocaust. That's pretty grim. But 10 years later, on Bad Hair Day, Al's found a new way to ruin the holiday season. This time, it's the story of Santa getting drunk, realizing he's been getting a raw deal with his whole Christmas gift arrangement, and decides to kill absolutely everyone in graphic, sadistic fashion. The elves, the reindeer. In fact, it seems like he might have taken over the whole world if not for being eventually stopped by the National Guard. Al describes him as a big, fat, drunk, disgruntled Yuletide Rambo, which is maybe the most poetic description of a horrible thing I've ever heard. There are actually 2 versions of this song. The album version has a slightly cheerier ending, where Santa is captured by the authorities and sentenced to just 700 years in prison. The surviving reindeer are in therapy, and the surviving elves now work for the post office. But there's also the extra gory version, which is typically how Al performs it live, where the SWAT team has had no choice but to shoot Santa dead, and it would seem Christmas is officially over forever. But in both scenarios, we don't have to worry about Mrs. Claus, who is in the process of selling the movie rights to her story. Seemingly modeled after the musical stylings of Soul Asylum's Black Gold, this is a truly twisted one from the mind of Al, and immediately joins I Remember Larry as one of Al's most violent and horrific stories. As a child, this both horrified me and also captured my imagination, as I'm sure it did loads of kids. Weird Al is always fun, but he's also a little dangerous. The carnage of this song, coupled with the catchy chorus hook and twinkly Christmas production with air raid sirens over the top, makes it the absolute perfect way to end this absolutely fantastic album.
Bad Hair Day went on to become one of Al's most beloved and best-selling releases. Despite the Coolio controversy, or possibly because of it, Al managed to connect with a new audience of fans, including myself. It would be another 3 years and 1 LASIK surgery later that Al would return with a new look for his 1999 smash hit, Running with Scissors. But that's a story for another day.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and most importantly, comment on this video if you want more Weird Al content like this one.
And subscribe to Weird Al-Gorithm on your favorite podcasting app for weekly discussions of all things Al.